Community Builder for those who serve others, the rising voice for emerging communicators, the Bridge Builder for underrepresented perspectives, and the Determined Scholar for those facing financial hardship. If finances are the only barrier between you and this training, well, let's hurdle that barrier. We're accepting applications right now at TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. The priority deadline is February the 10th. So visit TavisTalks.com right now and let's build this table together. On and on and on and on.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Top 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest in this hour is Dr. Wilmer J. Leon III, PhD, political scientist, whose primary areas of expertise are Black politics, American government, and public policy. For 11 years, he was a lecturer, teaching associate in the political science department at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Currently, Dr. Leon is a nationally broadcast radio host on Sirius XM satellite radio, channel 126, nationally syndicated columnist, and regular political commentator on national and international news programs. Dr. Leon earned a BS degree in political science from Hampton Institute, a master's in public policy from Howard University, and a PhD in political science from Howard University. He was a contributing author to Democratic Destiny and the District of Columbia, Lexington Books 2010. His latest book is Politics, Another Perspective, Commentary and Analysis on Race, War, Ethics, and the American Political Landscape. Dr. Leon, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
As always, thanks for bringing me forward. How you doing?
I am so grateful that you're here. Dr. Leon, before we get to the subject matters that we were initially going to discuss for the hour, these are some pretty peculiar times that we find ourselves living in. In the first segment of our show, can you give us a brief overview of what your work has shown and how this is coming together at this moment?
Wow, that's a challenging question. Let me simply try to put it this way. In 2019, in a Frontline interview, Steve Bannon, then Trump's key political advisor, and he's still within that sphere, told us that the mission of the Trump administration would be the deconstruction of the administrative state.
Mm.
And in this campaign, we've got Russell Vought, who is now Trump's director of the Office of Management and Budget, who told us that we are in a post-constitutional America. And Russell Vought is also one of the co-authors of Project 2025, which, if anyone remembers, Donald Trump tried to disavow any, if not any, or any, if not all, knowledge of at the time. So what they have told us what they're going to do. This is no mystery. And so it boggles my mind how, particularly when you listen to mainstream media, they want to they want to present this as though this is a shock. This is a surprise. When you listen to some of these town hall meetings coming from the Midwest, coming from red states, and you now have American soy farmers, you have American beef I guess farmers. You have a number of other folks saying, we didn't vote for this. Yes, you did. Make no mistake. They told you very clearly what they were going to do. But you thought it wasn't going to happen to you. So what you're saying is, when you hear MAGA people, when you hear Marjorie Taylor Greene just said yesterday or the day before, MAGA is a lie. Marjorie Taylor Greene told us, but Marjorie, then you're a liar, because you donned the MAGA hat. You wrapped yourself up in the MAGA flag. You attacked anybody that 2 years ago was telling the truth that it was a fraud. But glad you finally found Jesus. So when you hear these folks say, I didn't vote for this, what they're saying really is, hold up. You weren't supposed to screw me. You didn't tell me you told me you were going to screw all them Mexicans. And I'm not Mexican. I'm not from Somalia. I'm not from Haiti. I'm white and I live in Iowa. And now I'm losing my farm because you canceled my soy contracts with China, and China now has gone to Brazil to get their soybeans. So what does that say about us? That is always my question. What does that tell us?
My very special guest in this hour is Dr. Wilmer J. Leon, PhD, political scientist, whose primary areas of expertise are Black politics, American government, and public policy. He's a good friend of mine, and I'm particularly grateful that he's giving us a recap. When we come forward, we're going to talk about the Black church, the history of liberation in the Black church, and the meaning of Minneapolis. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Drop it. Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were sending you to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, give me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm 2. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes, and your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You got to go to child support court. You got to get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Sean. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room on one stage at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
You got to laugh the pain away.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Wally drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest is Dr. Wilmer J. Leon. Dr. Leon, welcome forward to the show.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for bringing me forward.
You know, Dr. Leon, I want to say this. I was having a fascinating conversation with Teresa Hord Owens, the president and general minister of the Disciples of Christ Church, a multiracial denomination, both in the United States and Canada. And she is the first person of color to head the denomination. And I began our conversation in pre-construction between 1619 and the Declaration of Independence of our introduction to Christianity and what it meant. Towards the end of the conversation, she reminded me of the rich religious liberation traditions that are part of our culture long before we were introduced to Americanized Christianity. I know that we're going to have a conversation leading us into the direction of the liberation theological traditions of the church. But we were somebody before we got here on the question of God, weren't we?
Well, since most will tell you that monotheism and the idea of the virgin birth and a number of the other elements of Christianity came out of the continent, I'd have to say, yes, sir, I think you're right. And I think it's also important for people listening to this conversation to remember that neither Jesus nor Moses looked like Charlton Heston. Jesus was a Palestinian Jew with hair of lamb's wool and skin of burnt bronze, neither of which describes Charlton Heston. So please keep that in mind as folks, as you listen to this conversation, please keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Dr. Leon, your thoughts on the role of the Black church and the liberation tradition that's influenced our movement from its inception, really, if you can, and if you will, to what's going on in Minneapolis.
Well, I would say that the role of the Black church and particularly liberation theology has been the foundation of what has been able to bring us up to this point. And I think forsaking it is what is keeping us in this rut. If you now, theology is your area of expertise, not mine. So I'm operating in terms of this conversation, I'm operating at an incredible disadvantage. I need to sit and listen to you as opposed to be sitting here talking with you. But I look at and read Howard Thurman. And I read and listen to Reverend James Cone, God of the Oppressed, and Black Theology and Black Power, and the Cross and the Lynching Tree. I think it was Cone, it might have been Thurman, but I think it was Cone who said, if your religious tradition is not based in and advocating your liberation, you're wasting your time. I think about Reverend Dr. Aubrey Hendricks and his book, The Politics of Jesus, because somehow we seem to have lost the understanding that what Jesus was advocating. He was in fact, I think it's Cone. No. It's Howard Thurman that talks about Jesus as a liberator. As a liberator. Aubrey Hendricks talks to us about Jesus in the political context in terms of what he was advocating, who he was advocating for, and why he eventually had to be assassinated. And so a lot of the very things that he was advocating during that time, we still find ourselves battling the same systemic challenges and problems. But somehow too many of us have gotten caught up in this the mega churches and what's it called, the when the not the economic theology, what do they call it,
the prosperity gospel, all of those scams, and losing sight of, again, as Thurman said, Jesus as a liberator, and Cone telling us if your theology is not advocating your liberation, you are wasting your time. Aubrey Hendricks even goes so far as to explain the difference between gospel music and praise music. Isn't that something? Let me chime in right here. I posited a thesis in our conversation yesterday that I've been thinking about now for 24 hours. That while it is not written about, the Black liberation theological tradition actually comes from Black women. Now, you think about the limited access to the First Amendment after 1791 that Black people had on a plantation, or the slaves had on the plantation. What access we did have to some semblance of the First Amendment occurred in church on Sunday morning. They didn't worship with us. We had a day off from the field, a partial day off from the field. And the trauma in that church, in that space, was a husband who would be with his wife who might have been violated by the overseer or even by the master. And yet they brought it to Jesus every Sunday morning. Or even men who had been beaten or debauched, having to live with their wives and explain to them, or live with the idea that they had been taken advantage of. They brought it to Jesus on Sunday morning. To come to church one Sunday with your children and to go to church the next Sunday and your children have been sold. That's a lot to pray about. To come to church on Sunday morning and to know that your daughter had been taken advantage of by someone on the plantation, from the big house, if you will, from the plantation house, that's a lot to come and pray on. And so the Black church in its genesis in the United States has this dealing and reckoning with trauma at every level of the horrific experience of chattel slavery. Now, why do I say Black liberation theology has its tradition in Black women? When I think about Harriet Tubman was in ministry in the Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
She quoted scripture often about being freed from this process. And while she was not in the pulpit on Sunday morning, we can only imagine, Dr. Leon, just how many preachers she had to cuss out who said, y'all better not go nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, we leaving here in the still of the night. Go down Moses. The liberation tradition for my father wasn't to be a preacher on Sunday morning, but it was to have a community organizing meeting called Operation Push on Saturday morning. He didn't want to compete with preachers and pastors. And so when I think about the traumatic experience and the experiences of suffering congregants at the inception of the Black church, again, the period where our rich religious cultural traditions and heritage became the enslavement period here in the Americas, I can't help but think how that tradition led to a liberation hermeneutic and ethic. But when I think about pastors now and others flying from the balcony of a church to the pulpit on stilts and all kinds of cords and cables and all of the entertainment that the tradition has become, there's almost no room for the traumatic experience that gave birth to the dash towards freedom. Dr. Leon?
Well, as you were just saying that, and talking about Harriet Tubman, and that she had to cuss out a lot of pastors because she says, we're leaving here in the still of the night. It took me to something your father said. Your dad came to Hampton my junior year. And that was the first time that I was able to be in close personal proximity to your father and to hear him live. And one of the things that he talked to us about in his lecture was you can't play it safe. And so that when you just talked about Harriet Tubman, that just took me to your dad, because when you say she's cussing out the pastor saying we're leaving in the still of the night, what she was telling the pastor was, we can't play it safe. The pastor was saying, don't risk it. Don't risk it. She was saying, if we don't risk it, there's no biscuit. And then your father comes in 1979 to Hampton and tells us as students at Hampton, you can't play it safe. When your father was on that balcony at the Lorraine Motel, they weren't playing it safe.
Is that your sense of where the Black church is today? That
absolutely,
it's playing it safe.
Absolutely. That's what the prosperity ministry, that fraud called prosperity ministry, is all about. Don't risk your middle class security. Don't risk your. Do you want to have your Mercedes Benz repossessed? No, don't risk it. Play it safe. Go along with the program. Mr. Bobo will give you yours by and by. Why you want to argue with Mr. Charlie? No, don't do that.
I find that fascinating that the Sojourner Truths and the Harriet Tubmans are reading the Lord's Prayer, and they see on earth as it is in heaven, fundamentally different than those who had a heaven-bound theology. Hence, a major disagreement and a major discussion and fight, if you will, between these women and Black pastors on their way to freedom, because there was a comfort, a play it safe on the plantation that these women, in the tradition of Moses, in the tradition of Jesus of Nazareth, moved people and their spirits along with their bodies out of the condition to the idea of freedom, to the idea of the promised land. So in that context, who are the true Christians? Those who are passive, or those who are actually engaged in the movement of the liberation of the people? I'd argue that women are at the foundation of liberation theology in their actions. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest is Wilmer Leon. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. There's still no acting mayor in South Suburban Harvey, Illinois, after the death of Black Mayor Christopher Clark.
The mayor of the city, Harvey, is a part-time position.
A special city council meeting failed to produce a winner, leaving alderperson Shirley Drewinski serving as mayor pro tem until another vote is scheduled. Journalist Don Lemon says his recent arrest was meant to embarrass him. The former CNN anchor told Jimmy Kimmel Live that federal agents detained him after he covered protesters who disrupted a church service in St. Paul. Lemon says his lawyer tried to argue a voluntary surrender but never heard back. And Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass used her State of the City address to spotlight major events like the World Cup and Olympics while calling for unity in the city. She also said rebuilding in Pacific Palisades has been fast-tracked after last year's wildfire, even as critics accuse her of being unprepared and slow to help residents recover. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers came home Monday night from a 3-game road trip and appeared to have some jet lag. They had a tough time with Philadelphia and ended up losing 128-113 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Kawhi Leonard was the only bright spot for the Clippers with 29 points. The Lakers are at Brooklyn tonight, final game of their 8-game road trip. The NFL has some explaining to do. There were 10 openings in this offseason for a head coach. None of the 10 jobs went to an African American. The last 2 teams looking for a head coach, Arizona and Las Vegas, hired a white candidate to fill the position. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said the league needs to re-examine the Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview at least 2 minority candidates. Somebody needs to tell Goodell that the coaching issue in the NFL goes way beyond the Rooney Rule. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
They call it progress. But progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized. The families who watched their inheritance disappear. The wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the Southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300. or AfricanFocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download that.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Tenacious Tuesdays, and our very special guest in this hour is none other than Dr. Wilmer J. Leon, PhD, political scientist, whose primary areas of expertise are Black politics, American government, and public policy. Dr. Leon is a regular contributor on truthout.org, theroot.com, politicsincolor.com, blacknews.com, Black Agenda Report, Black Politics on the Web, and over 200 newspapers and other websites across the country. He can also be seen as a regular contributor and analyst on TV One's News on Now with Roland Martin, Press TV, and RTTV. Dr. Leon, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you're here, sir. Doc, if we can fast forward it to what we're looking at in terms of what's taking place in the United States today, in particular in Minneapolis. I know you have some profound thoughts about what we're looking at in terms of the disintegration of the democratic system and the republic itself.
You know, one of the questions that I've been trying to answer is this whole issue in Minnesota really about immigration, or is immigration the excuse that's being presented as Donald Trump is testing the system to see how far he can push it as he wants to institute martial law? So I don't know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a binary analysis. It doesn't necessarily have to be either or. Multiple things can be true at the same time. But he has stretched the border from California, Arizona, and Texas. He has stretched the border with ICE and border agents all the way up to Minnesota now. And he is arresting, shooting American citizens who are exercising their First Amendment rights of free speech and the right to protest, to petition the government to redress grievances. Again, Russell Vogt told us that we are in a post-constitutional America. So they being ICE, they are now even the director of Homeland Security has told his ICE agents, you don't need a judicial warrant to enter a home. You can enter it on an administrative warrant. That's a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Absolutely it is.
So, and again, when you look at who's being arrested, when you look at he's shooting white women in the face. He's not shooting Mexicans and Latinos and Somalis and Haitians. They shoot now. They in Minnesota shooting white people. So,
Dr. Leon, in this moment, I'm thinking about a Southern tactic during Jim Crow and before the Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Voting Rights Act of 65. I'm thinking about the Southern governors and sheriffs and others who would encourage Black people to get on a bus, and he would send them to Massachusetts to meet the Kennedys. And he would tell them that if you go north, there are jobs north, there are opportunities north.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to drop you off right in front of the Kennedys' house because the Kennedys are ready to meet y'all when y'all get up there. Of course, when they got off the bus in their Sunday's best, right in front of the Kennedys' house, the Kennedys were not there, nor were they expecting visitors.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about the only way Venezuelans and immigrants come into the United States by way of crossing the southern border. Governor Texas, Governor Abbott of Texas,
mm-hmm.
and DeSantis and others, sending immigrants in the cold to Chicago and to Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And these cities declare the need, rather than watching people freeze to death, to be sanctuaries for human beings. And then, as you correctly stated, Donald Trump extended the border from the South, from California, all the way to those places that these governors sent these people who were yearning to breathe free into our cities, creating the kind of mayhem that is a result of these ICE agents not following the Constitution or abide by any constitutional construct with respect to engaging American citizens or people who have rights to be here in the United States. But because their skin is brown, because they speak a different language, they find themselves the victims of the brutality of the United States government. I'm wondering in this moment if the parallel between the reverse freedom rides for Black folks and, if you will, the reverse freedom rides for Venezuelans and Latinos, that is, you're here in the North now they're going to take you back and send you back to the country of origin, is the strongest possible signal from my perspective that America is no longer, Dr. Leon, a welcoming country.
I think you're absolutely right. There's a great book. I'm looking for it on my bookcase. I can't find it at the moment. Anyway, having to do with it's the history of United States regime change or coup d'etats, and Stephen Kinzer wrote the book. And again, I'm drawing a blank on it. But anyway, the point is, folks that want to engage in this conversation about immigration, they need to understand the history of United States involvement in foreign countries. And because if you don't understand that history, then I don't think you can intelligently have a conversation about this issue. There's an adage with you being in and from Chicago. I think you know the saying, "Don't start nothing, won't be nothing."
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go back and look at the history of the United States involvement in Guatemala, go back and look at the history of the United States involvement in Nicaragua, and then ask yourself, why are these people leaving their homes, risking everything they have, including their lives, to come here? Well, and then ask yourself, why aren't we going to Guatemala? Why aren't we going to Nicaragua? Because we're good where we are. We're happy where we are. We're warm and fed where we are. So why aren't they? And then look at the history of their governments and the United States involvement in overthrowing their democratically elected presidents and prime ministers for the sake of United Fruit Company, for the sake of Domino Sugar, for the sake of other corporate interests, Shell Oil, British Petroleum in Iran. And then you'll start to understand why those people are coming. And once you understand that, then you'll be able to develop better solutions to solving these problems. But if you don't understand the crux of the problem, you damn sure can't figure out a solution.
I think Stephen Kinzer's book is Overthrow. Is it Overthrow?
It's Overthrow.
It's a great
read Overthrow. And then you'll have a much better understanding of the issue. And to the last point you were making before we went into the break, there's a reason why Reverend Cone wrote the book, God of the Oppressed.
Yes. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest is Dr. Wilmer J. Leon, PhD, political scientist, and activist. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the story of the one. As the purchasing manager at a manufacturing plant, she knows the only thing more important than having the right safety gear is having it there when you need it. That's why she partners with Grainger for auto reordering, so her team members can count on her to have cut-resistant gloves on hand, and each shift can run safely and efficiently. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
February 4th is Transit Equity Day. To mark the occasion, Metro is offering free rides all day on the 4th. Providing safe, accessible, and affordable transportation is a commitment Metro makes year-round. Learn more at thesource.metro.net. USC Visions and Voices invites you to the LA premiere of Major, an exciting new dance theater performance exploring the legacy of Majorette dance. Directed by award-winning choreographer Ogemdi Ude, Major combines music and movement to explore what it means to be proudly Black and proudly femme. Join us on Wednesday, February 4th at USC's Bovard Auditorium. Reserve your free ticket now at visionsandvoices.usc.edu. That's visionsandvoices.usc.edu.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. wanna talk with me? Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's February 3rd, and there are key Black history events on February 3rd in the history of our people. In 1870, the ratification of the 15th Amendment occurred on February 3rd, granting voting rights to Black men. Autherine Lucy becoming the first Black student at the University of Alabama in 1956. Jack Johnson won his first title in 1903, a milestone highlighting major progress in civil rights, education, and sport. Eric Holder Jr. was sworn as the nation's first African-American Attorney General. Bill White named National League president in 1989. Former MLB player Bill White was named president of the National League, making him the first African-American to head a major U.S. sports league. And on February 3rd, the New York school boycott of 1964. Approximately 464 Black and Puerto Rican students boycotted New York public city schools to protest segregation. Every single day of the year, there is Black history. Dr. Leon, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you as always.
Dr. Leon, let me, I know that we're going to be coming forward, and towards the top of the hour, you'll be giving us your word of hope. Why don't we first start, before some initial final thoughts, on how we can support your work and how can we listen to your programming? Dr. Leon.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. I'm on Sirius XM channel 126 every Saturday from 11 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. So greatly appreciate folks tuning in there. I had a podcast which we had to suspend due to financial issues. So I'm working on bringing it back. I got a lot of support from folks in Chicago, and so we're working on bringing it back. So hopefully, once we get all that ironed out, you'll allow me to come back and let people know how they can contribute to the effort and bring the program back. That show, you can still go to YouTube and find it was called Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon. It was on Monday through Friday from 3 to 4 Eastern. But again, you can find me on Sirius XM channel 126 Urban View Saturdays from 11 to 2 Eastern.
Doc, in light of that, and we do support your work, and we will have you back on to give more information about your program, Connecting the Dots, once it's ready to go. Don Lemon was arrested recently, Dr. Leon, and the attack on the First Amendment seems to be an attack on Black voices who are taking advantage of the First Amendment. Your thoughts, Dr. Leon?
Well, I think there's definitely a direct attack on Black voices as it relates to the First Amendment. But when you look at all of the protesters, for example, in Minnesota that are being harassed, that's an attack on the First Amendment as well. Mm-hmm. The freedom to petition your government for redress of grievances. So I think that there is we because there are fewer of our voices in these types of spaces, for example, your show, my show, Don Lemon having been formerly on CNN, there are fewer of our faces in those spaces. When we come under attack, it is much more obvious than the average American. But there is a direct attack on the First Amendment. And we need to understand that there are those that I've heard when it comes to Minnesota and looking at those issues, there are those in our community who are saying, well, look, that's their fight. That's not our fight. But we can't afford to take that position for a number of reasons. And because when they're done they are practicing on them, we will eventually be caught up in that dragnet. And when you look at the technology that's being used, the surveillance technology that's being used in Minnesota, that's being used in Chicago, that's being used in Los Angeles, the companies such as Palantir, which has a direct link to the Israeli Defense Forces, They are using the same technology that they've been employing against Palestinians. They're using that technology against us now. So there are so many tentacles that are tying the foreign to the domestic, the broader community to our community. We can't afford to sit back and say, this is not our fight.
Dr. Leon, your thoughts on Carter G. Woodson and Black history and the significance of this month.
I had a student ask me just last week what was one of my favorite books, and I said, The Miseducation of the Negro. And she said, why The Miseducation of the Negro? I said, because if you want to start to get an understanding of our plight, if you want to start to get an understanding of how the system has been used against us to create a particular narrative, a particular story, to convince us to go along and get along, and as your dad said, not play it safe. Miseducation of the Negro is incredibly well written, incredibly well researched, very, very easy to read. And I always recommend to people that say to me, where do I start? I tell them, start with that book. Du Bois is brilliant, but a challenge to read. You've got to sit down and dig in order to get through The Souls of Black Folk or The Ordeal of Manzard or Dusk of Dawn. But if you want to start in the right spot, I believe even his name just left me. So anyway, start with Du Bois. Start with Miseducation of the Negro and Carter G. Woodson. That will whet your appetite, and from there you'll be able to go on to other more challenging authors.
One of my favorite passages in The Miseducation of the Negro is he talks about our spending patterns and he talks about our behavior. And he said that we had become so accustomed to the system of oppression that even if offered the opportunity to walk in the front door.
There you go.
I'm going to let you finish that for me, Doc.
That if there is no front door, you will go to the back. You will create one. You will go to the back. And if there is no door in the back, you will create one for yourself.
It doesn't get much more creative than that.
And it doesn't get any simpler than that.
Every day I meet someone who has the right to go in the front door. They're used to going in the back door. And Carter G says, if there is no back door, because you've been conditioned to going in the back of the restaurant, you will cut a hole in the wall and climb through it. Dr. Wilmer Leon, thank you for being our very special guest in this hour.
Thank you, my brother.
You're always welcome. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are taking a survey of Black history with some of the best and brightest thinkers there are in the nation at this hour, and Dr. Wilmer J. Leon is certainly one of them. Very grateful for his regular contribution to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Carter G. Woodson was a pioneering American historian, educator, and author known as the father of Black history. More on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward on Tenacious Tuesday. Barbara Arnwine's up next, y'all.
Beautiful.
Come on, folks.
Beautiful.
Come on, folks.
Beautiful. Tell her I said hello.
I promise. I'll see you soon.
All right.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. There's still no acting mayor in South Suburban Harvey, Illinois after the death of Black Mayor Christopher Clark.
The mayor of the city, Harvey, is a part-time position.
A special city council meeting failed to produce a winner, leaving alderperson Shirley Drewinski serving as mayor pro tem until another vote is scheduled. Journalist Don Lemon says his recent arrest was meant to embarrass him. The former CNN anchor told Jimmy Kimmel Live that federal agents detained him after he covered protesters who disrupted a church service in St. Paul. Lemon says his lawyer tried to argue a voluntary surrender but never heard back. And Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass used her State of the City address to spotlight major events like the World Cup and Olympics while calling for unity in the city. She also said rebuilding in Pacific Palisades has been fast-tracked after last year's wildfire, even as critics accuse her of being unprepared and slow to help residents recover. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers came home Monday night from a 3-game road trip and appeared to have some jet lag. They had a tough time with Philadelphia and ended up losing 128-113 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Kawhi Leonard was the only bright spot for the Clippers with 29 points. The Lakers are at Brooklyn tonight, final game of their 8-game road trip. The NFL has some explaining to do. There were 10 openings in this offseason for a head coach. None of the 10 jobs went to an African American. The last 2 teams looking for a head coach, Arizona and Las Vegas, hired a white candidate to fill the position. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said the league needs to re-examine the Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview at least 2 minority candidates. Somebody needs to tell Goodell that the coaching issue in the NFL goes way beyond the Rooney Rule. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. The tools to hold a meaningful conversation should not be reserved just for a privileged few. It is a skill our world desperately needs in every community, at every table. So I'm pleased to announce the Founding Members Scholarship Program for my online course, The Art of Conversation, in 4 different categories. The Community Builder, for those who serve others, the Rising Voice for emerging communicators, the Bridge Builder for underrepresented perspectives, and the Determined Scholar for those facing financial hardship. If finances are the only barrier between you and this training, well, let's hurdle that barrier. We're accepting applications right now at TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. The priority deadline is February the 10th. So visit TavisTalks.com right now and let's build this table together.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Tenacious Tuesday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour will be Barbara Arnwine, and she'll be coming up momentarily. But I want to read an editorial that I wrote for the Hill newspaper that appeared in today's Hill. You can find it at thehill.com. And it's titled, Millions of Americans Rely on the Affordable Care Act. They deserve an upgrade. More than 20 million Americans are getting hit with raging premiums for continued coverage under the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Many of them will be priced out of affordable coverage. They've already had their last doctor appointments and picked up the remaining prescription covered under their insurance. The dismal failure of Congress to pass a vote on extending Obamacare subsidies is another round of DC pettiness, putting this coverage and those who depend on it in the political crosshairs. Republicans voted against the act when we passed it. They tried more than 70 times to repeal it. They've even sued to overturn it. They failed to defeat it, so they're starving it out of funding. While the fight over subsidies will continue to rage, Congress will be having more productive debate on how to upgrade the ACA, better serve the nearly 50 million Americans who rely on it. At 15 years old, the law is showing its age and the neglect that has come from it fighting for its own survival instead of evolving. The good news is we know it works. Obamacare was the most consequential social policy of the past half century. With it, we cut the uninsured rate by half, protected those with pre-existing conditions, expanded Medicaid, and took tremendous strides toward lowering health care costs. In 2025, enrollment in ACA plans reached record highs. The temporary expansion of subsidies during the pandemic and through the Inflation Reduction Act made premiums affordable for millions of middle-class families who previously earned too much to qualify for help. Making those subsidies permanent should be the floor, not the ceiling. Premiums are only part of the healthcare affordability crisis. Many encounter barriers to care after they're insured. High deductibles and unpredictable out-of-pocket costs still cause Americans to delay care, skip prescriptions, and avoid specialists. Upgrade the ACA to cap deductibles and total out-of-pocket costs as a percentage of income. Health insurance does not work if people are deterred from using it. Next, close the Medicaid coverage gap once and for all. In states that decline Medicaid expansion, millions of low-income adults still earn too much to qualify for Medicaid and too little to receive ACA subsidies. Their access to care depends entirely on where they live. That's a policy failure that disproportionately harms Blacks, Latinos, rural, and caregiving communities. Congress should create a federal fallback option in the ACA that guarantees coverage for people below the federal poverty level, regardless of geography. Health coverage should not be a zip code lottery. An upgraded ACA should include a public option designed to lower costs. A Medicare-anchored public option with provider payments tied to Medicare rates plus modest margins would begin the real price competition to markets dominated one or two insurers. It could be automatically offered in underserved rural communities and available as a default option for people who are uninsured yet eligible. Done right, a public option would lower prices while stabilizing access in affected areas where there are disparities. An upgraded of the ACA must confront America's epidemic of medical debt. Even insured families are routinely pushed into collections after a healthcare crisis, which undermines their credit. Banning medical debt from credit card reports and funding automatic debt forgiveness for low-income patients would finally achieve something everyone in Congress ought be fighting for, preventing a serious illness from destroying the economic future of our families. Beyond coverage and cost, the ACA must rebalance the health care dollars and where they go. The system still overpays hospitals and specialty care practices while underinvesting in primary care, mental health, and maternal health. Updating essential health benefits to fully integrate behavioral health, increasing reimbursement for primary care, and funding community health workers and care navigators would pay dividends in outcomes and equity. Health tech can also expand access and improve quality if governed wisely. Telehealth should be permanently reimbursed to reach rural communities, people with disabilities, and those without reliable transportation. Broadband and digital access must be treated as part of America's healthcare infrastructure. Getting blood pressure monitors into homes could get and help more people to reduce their cardiac risks of events. Let's top off the upgrade by measuring the ACA by outcomes, not just enrollment. Federal programs should track disparities in maternal mortality, chronic disease management, and mental health access, and tie funding to results. That could help get the ACA past the chronic political bickering in Washington, D.C. The ACA never was meant to be frozen in time. It was meant to evolve. It's the law, and it's the only real plan ever offered to shape a better future for healthcare in America. It's time for all of Congress to accept and work together to make it the world's strongest health coverage. That was written today, and it appears in The Hill by Jesse Jackson Jr. If you want to save Medicare for all, if you want to save the Affordable Care Act, include dental, vision, and hearing, and bring millions of Americans into the system who, when they receive it, it will become the most popular program in the U.S. government. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, come on, folks. Barbara Arnwine, come on, folks. She's responsible for some of the great protests in the resistance movement of Donald John Trump and his presidency. I saw her this weekend on Alshi Velshi with one of her co-creators. and I'm hoping that both will be on our program just momentarily. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were sent to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, give me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm 2. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes, and your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Sean. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room on one stage at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up? You got to laugh the pain away.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to On the Grind with Barbara Arnwine on Tenacious Tuesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Barbara Arnwine is the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition and is internationally renowned for contributions on critical justice issues, including the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1991 and the 2006 reauthorization of provisions for the Voting Rights Act. On our program, she really needs no introduction because she is one of the most amazing contributors, workers, and activists that I know in the United States. And this past weekend, we turned on the television and couldn't believe it. There was Barbara Arnwine and Daryl Jones Esquire, the Transformative Justice Coalition board chair, criminal defense and civil litigation lawyer, including personal injury, DUI, DWI, and complex criminal matters. A career litigator, Mr. Jones has served as an assistant state's attorney in Anne Arundel County and has litigated before every major jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. Barbara Arnwine, Mr. Chairman, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks for having us.
Mr. Chairman, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you.
Barbara, the producer and I were particularly fascinated by your appearance on Alshi Valshi, and he was just gushing. He was just gushing with enthusiasm for the work that you and the coalition has put in terms of the resistance movement. And ultimately, I think he even raised the question of a general strike. Why don't you share with us first your experience with Mr. Velshi, and then I'm going to ask the chairman if he would share his experience with Mr. Velshi, as well as the context. Please, both of you, share the context within which your engagement with Mr. Velshi was so important this particular weekend.
Well, it's fascinating because I have been on, a number of what was then MSNBC shows, and of course it's now MS Now. And I've been a huge admirer of Ali Velshi because I just loved, Lawrence O'Donnell. So The Last Word is one of my favorite, shows on MS Now. And Velshi is always, his substitute mostly. And I just love, watching him handle that show and his own weekend show. He's brilliant. He's so studied and he's so dedicated. I mean, he really does a fantastic job. I find him, that he has the kind of intellectual prowess that you see in Lawrence O'Donnell and so many of the other top, anchors. So he's really quite amazing. And it was an honor to be on the show. We were there to talk about what's going on in Minneapolis, what's happened to our Black journalists and activists in Minnesota, and talking also in the First Amendment and talking very much about No Kings 3. So those were the things we were on the show to elucidate. And it was a pleasure to be on with Daryl Jones, my co-leader, who is always on the mark.
Mr. Chairman, the Transformative Justice Coalition is on the forefront of a national movement to potentially shut the country down if, in fact, the administration does not bow to the will of the people as opposed to asking the people to bow to its will. Your thought about the Transformative Justice Coalition in this hour and what we must do next.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jesse. And I tell you, I can think of no better person to be on the front line with than Barbara Arnwine. And I'm gonna tell you, the Transformative Justice Coalition, we've linked arms with the No Kings Coalition. So we're there with Indivisible, we're there with several other national organizations, and we're all in lockstep. And what the focus is right now is on everything that's happening in our country. The focus is on, the stops, the unconstitutional stops of immigrants that are occurring not simply in Minneapolis, but throughout the country. The focus is on all of these things that are happening, the seizure of voting materials, voting data out of Fulton County, Georgia. I mean, all of these major issues that are happening are threatening our democracy. So on March the 28th, we invite everyone to go to nokings.org and to raise your voice, because what we know is that when we're facing authoritarian times like we are right now, it's not about are we going to head toward authoritarianism. We're in it. We're in the beginning stages of this. We're well into it. The question now is, do we have the fortitude? Do we have the will? Do we have the backbone to stand up against what we're now facing? That's what March the 28th is all about. That's what the No Kings rallies around this country are going to be about. It's the time to raise our voice, the opportunity to raise our voice. And we want to be certain to be at the forefront of encouraging people to have that opportunity and to get out off the sidewalks into the streets and cause good trouble and let the administration and everyone know that the direction that they're going is not a direction that democracy should be going in, and we need to open everything up.
Barbara, the chairman cited the seizing of materials in the Fulton County jurisdiction, and the president and Ms. Noem most recently said that they would take pressure off of Minneapolis if the state of Minnesota would give them access to their voter rolls. And the president said, I think within the last 48 hours, that there might be as many as 15 jurisdictions around the country where he is holding them to a similar standard in terms of what he refers to as corruption at the polling place. Are we really looking at the president interfering with in a very substantive and forthright way with the midterm elections?
Well, he has made the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, who sent that horrid letter to the governor of Minnesota, 2 hours, did you hear me? 2 hours after the murder of Alex Pretty, saying we will withdraw everyone, all of ICE, our National Guard, and stop the Minnesota surge if you will give me your voter database. I mean, it's just so clear that what this Justice Department that authorized and ran that raid in Fulton County, that what they're all about is 2026. Allegedly, they said Fulton County was about 2020 in the past election. No, people, no. Don't fall for that. Because all they're saying is that they want to know who voted in 2024, 2020, and they want to know how they can block those voters. And it is critical that we protect voters. Thank God, and I give all the praise to every single jurisdiction that has said no to the Trump administration, who has asked for their voter databases. Who do you think these 15 cities are? Come on, folks. Don't you know who they are? He done been calling them forever. You just take any city with a strong African-American voting base, and that's who he's talking about. Don't be fooled, but I don't want to miss something here. Folks, fascism is about achieving its goal. It will not stop. It will kill whites if it has to, and it has. And it will keep killing white people. It'll keep killing anybody who gets in their way. It has no respect for the individual, no respect for the Constitution, no respect for our rights. All it cares about is domination and its ability to occupy and dominate every single sector in this country. And it's imperative that every one of us remind Mr. Trump, remind everyone else that the Constitution doesn't say we the president, doesn't say we the Congress, it doesn't say we the right wing, it says we the people. And the people are going to make their voices heard. You watch us. March 28th, we're coming out in force. You think you've seen it already in Minneapolis? You think you saw it last weekend brilliantly in Chicago? You thought you saw it in Denver? You thought you've been watching it in Utah, New York, etc.? Get ready for March 28th.
I know when to pass the plate. Barbara, how can we support the Transformative Justice Coalition?
We are grateful for any contributions that you can make at tjcoalition.org. That's for the Transformative Justice Coalition, tjcoalition.org. We're serious. We're not out here just talking. We're in these streets. We're protecting our people. We're going to fight for our journalists. We're going to fight for our voters. We're never going to back down.
Mr. Chairman, to be a student of Barbara Arnwine is to be on a tremendous journey of knowledge, inspiration, and motivation. I'm thinking, because we have about 4 minutes before we come forward, that Donald Trump's efforts in these cities are likely to coincide with the Robinson versus Calais decision on Section 2, creating even further disruption if he continues the behavior that he's initiated in Fulton County and the behavior that he is suggesting is the only way to de-escalate in Minnesota. Mr. Chairman, your thoughts on the consequences of that major disruption in the middle of the midterms as well?
Yeah, I'm anticipating that there are going to be all kinds of stuff that's going to be happening to try to disrupt and interfere and confuse voters when it's time to go to the polls. The Calais decision is one that will call into question redistricting and start redistricting folks and have African American districts that are then being taken apart and present a situation where we will be losing power in state legislators as well as in Congress. I mean, all that's going to come from the Calais decision. We know that there are states right now that have already put in place the call for emergency sessions to change redistricting the moment that the Calais decision comes down. There are states that are prepared, Congressman, to move their primary dates, so that they have the opportunity to change the districts so they can dilute the power of the Black vote. All of this comes from that Calais decision. And I tell you, when you start putting the confusion that will come along with when do I vote, where do I vote, who can I vote for, along with the actions that are being taken by the Trump administration in Fulton County, where they're going and seizing ballots and pushing forward with what is a form of voter intimidation of what's going on there. You have all this ball of confusion that's occurring, and it's going to be incumbent upon everyone to be certain that you remain vigilant and protect your vote. Understand, be certain also that you go to vote.org and check your voting status and see if they've moved the place where you're supposed to go and vote. All of this is going to be coming down at us at one time. But I'm confident that stations such as yours and efforts such as yours will get the word out to people that they need to be vigilant, they need to protect, they need to understand what's happening, they need to understand the implications of this Calais decision once it comes down. The interesting part is we don't know when the Calais decision is going to come down. We know it'll be before June, but we don't know what day it will happen. But we do know that the day it will happen, that there's going to be some confusion that spreads across, particularly the southern parts of this country, with regards to voting districts and where people can vote and who they can vote for.
Mr. Chairman, what of states who have already conducted, and we have about 45 seconds, who've already conducted their primary processes and have yet to experience or participate in the general election if the decision comes down in June and there's already a movement to disrupt?
Yeah, well, what happens is that if the state has, and we're right on the cusp of the first primary happening in March, many things that happen. One thing that's under consideration by several of those states is moving their primary. Rather than having the primary at its allotted time, that they would have a special session that's called to move the primary to a later time, to give them a chance to make the adjustments as a result of what comes down from the U.S. Supreme Court in the Calais decision.
Mr. Chairman, I got to cut it right there. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580. More with the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Daryl Jones, and the president, Barbara Arnwine, when we come forward.
It's It's Afternoon Drive Time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Amber Payton with BIN News Now. South Florida Democrats are calling for a permanent extension of temporary protected status for Haitians, a day after a judge blocked the Trump administration from ending it.
These are our community leaders. These are small business owners.
Party Chair Nikki Fried says Florida is home to about half of TPS residents and is urging a pathway to citizenship for more than 350,000 Haitians facing violence and unrest back home. A South Dakota bill that would make interrupting religious services a felony is moving forward. The measure passed committee and is now headed to the Senate Judiciary Committee following last week's anti-ICE protest at a Minnesota church that led to the arrest of journalist Don Lemon. And rapper Nicki Minaj says she began publicly supporting President Trump after seeing what she described as bullying and unfair treatment toward him. In a podcast interview with Katie Miller, Minaj says her stance was driven by watching how Trump was treated. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers came home Monday night from a 3-game road trip and appeared to have some jet lag. They had a tough time with Philadelphia and ended up losing 128-113 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Kawhi Leonard was the only bright spot for the Clippers with 29 points. The Lakers are at Brooklyn tonight, final game of their 8-game road trip. The NFL has some explaining to do. There were 10 openings in this offseason for a head coach. None of the 10 jobs went to an African American. The last 2 teams looking for a head coach, Arizona and Las Vegas, hired a white candidate to fill the position. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said the league needs to re-examine the Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview at least 2 minority candidates. Somebody needs to tell Goodell that the coaching issue in the NFL goes way beyond the Rooney Rule. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. The tools to hold a meaningful conversation should not be reserved just for a privileged few. It is a skill our world desperately needs in every community, at every table. So I'm pleased to announce the Founding Members Scholarship Program for my online course, The Art of Conversation, in 4 different categories. The Community Builder, for those who serve others, the Rising Voice for emerging communicators, the Bridge Builder for underrepresented perspectives, and the Determined Scholar for those facing financial hardship. If finances are the only barrier between you and this training, well, let's hurdle that barrier. We're accepting applications right now at TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. The priority deadline is February the 10th. So visit TavisTalks.com right now and let's build this table together.
LADWP urges everyone to always keep safety top of mind. If you see a downed wire, don't touch it. Stay far away and call 911 immediately. Downed wires can be deadly. Whether you're at home, work, or on the road, always assume the wire is live. Together, we can keep Los Angeles safe and powered. Learn more at ladwp.com/electric safety.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and Tenacious Tuesday with Barbara Arnwine, where we're on the grind, and the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Daryl Jones Esquire. In 1870, on this date, the ratification of the 15th Amendment granting voting rights to Negro men. On this date, Eric Holder in 2009 was sworn in as the nation's first African-American Attorney General. And on this date, February 3rd, New York City school boycott in 1964, approximately 464,000 Black and Puerto Rican students boycotted New York City public schools to protest segregation. Barbara, Black history is every single day of the year. Attorney Arnwine? Barbara, I think we have you muted.
Absolutely, 365. In fact, I would urge everyone listening and watching to please go to tjcoalition.org because we have a daily series out on Black History Month. And what we are doing, we're doing a number of things. One thing we're doing is making sure people know about the voting rights struggle as a part of Black history. All the many people, many of whom you never heard of, all the many events, most of which you have not heard of, that led to our having voting rights. Not just the what Congress did, but the fight in the states, the fight across this nation for African American voting rights. But we also are doing something new this year. Instead of just having the events and the major figures in the adult section, we have created a children's series where we tell the story of the history detectives, 3 young children and their dog Prince, and their whole effort to uncover and preserve Black history regarding voting rights. And this time they're looking at the Declaration of Independence. It's really well done. It's produced by Caitlin Arnwine, and it's a product of the Transformative Justice Coalition. So if you want something daily, something where you can learn and something where you can teach your children or your children that you work with, please go to tjcoalition.org.
Mr. Chairman, I had the privilege of speaking for your organization and for you just 2 years ago, I believe it was. And in this moment, I'm reflecting upon the rich history that was Perrin J. Mitchell, that was and is Kwesi Mfume, then Elijah Cummings, and now Kwaisi Mfume again. The district that you are in, along with Barbara Arnwine, is one of the most sacred African-American congressional districts in the entire country. Can you share with us some reflections on the significance? I believe it's the 12th.
So yeah, that's in Baltimore City. That's correct. And let me tell you, the district that's in Baltimore City that produced Congressman Perrin J. Mitchell, who was the first African-American congressman in the state of Maryland, and actually the first below the Mason-Dixon line post-Reconstruction. And he went on, he was one of the founders, as you know, of the Congressional Black Caucus, and was one of the chairmen of the Congressional Black Caucus. When Congressman Mitchell no longer served in that capacity, it then went to Kwaisi Mfume, who he too then became one of the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucuses. Once Kwaisi Mfume left office and went with the NAACP as their chair, it then went to Elijah Cummings. And Elijah Cummings, just like Kwaisi Mfume, just like Perrin Mitchell, he too became chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and they were, all three just real powerhouses with regards to representing the interests of African Americans, not just in Baltimore, not just in the state of Maryland, but throughout the country. And now Kwaisi Mfume, Congressman Mfume, is back in that seat after the passing of Elijah Cummings. So it's really just a very powerful district, very progressive district, very great leadership that we've had, and we're so pleased that you, Jesse, were able to come to our Perrin J. Mitchell dinner and just bring the house down with the speech. They're still talking about it. They say, when can he come back? So they're still talking about it, but it shows the importance of elections, and it shows the importance of electing people that are rooted in the community and are fighting for the community, because that's what Elijah was about. That's what Perrin was about. That's what Kwaisi continues to be about. They're not many celebrities. They're there to do the work. They're there for the position, not for the celebrations.
I was thinking in this moment that one of the things that I learned, even though I've always known and had access to the Ralph Metcalfs of the 1st Congressional District of Illinois, and the Cardis Collins, who succeeded her husband in the 7th Congressional District of Illinois. And of course, Gus Savage was like an uncle to me on the south side of Chicago when I was growing up. But I never fully appreciated that there's no such thing as a local congressman.
Right.
And so when you elect a local congressman, you're electing them to a national body where it takes 218 votes to get anything done. And the leadership that comes out of Maryland 12 understood that more than most. Some of us just send a labor leader. We just send a hack. We just send our friend to Congress. But them Negroes that come out of Baltimore 12, I mean, they come out of Baltimore 12, not only serving the district, but speaking to the entire nation for such a time as this. I mean, they are extremely, very, very difficult shoes, Barbara, to fill.
I am so proud of the people of Baltimore. People just don't understand. When they elected Marilyn Mosby, they were so clear. This was the deal with the death of Freddie Gray and all of that police brutality, to deal with the reports that have been coming out about the misdeeds and misconduct and racism and sexism within the Baltimore Police Department. I mean, this is a...
Mr. Chairman, I think we lost Barbara for
election.
I'm sorry, Barbara.
Yeah. Do you have me now?
Yes, ma'am. I think we've lost her again, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, so Barbara was making this point about the 12th district and its leadership. We have about a minute and a half before we come forward. Mr. Chairman, let me allow you to finish.
Baltimore City has just produced just phenomenal leadership, and it didn't begin with Perrin Mitchell. Let's see what Congressman Perrin Mitchell. We had Clarence Mitchell, who was the Lion of the Senate.
Right.
Absolutely.
That was
Right.
there. So the whole Mitchell family that is there, and they all produce, all of them out of Baltimore have produced for the people of Baltimore, for the state of Maryland, and for the country.
I am I'm amazed at the rich history that is. While I was there, I visited Perrin Mitchell's childhood home and the neighborhood that he grew up in. And for those of us who are African Americans and have any appreciation of the role that these African Americans played in Second Reconstruction, in setting the foundation for the privileges and the rights that we enjoy in the modern era, I can only reflect upon in this moment that their contributions were so great that I am equally as concerned that the era that we live in, we might find ourselves looking, Barbara, at fewer and fewer African Americans in Congress and in state legislatures. And that should be deeply troubling even for Maryland 12.
Yes. And it's imperative.
Barbara,
folks.
Gina's giving me the signal. I promise you. We'll discuss this when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
You're listening. While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Hereeth my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times? You're playing the lute.
Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide, based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from Nits in the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
It's Tenacious Tuesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special contributing guest, the president of the Transformative Justice Coalition, none other than Barbara Arnwine, where we're always on the grind with her. Today, she's brought the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, attorney Daryl Jones, and I'm particularly grateful that both of them are here on our program. Daryl, if I might ask you a question, and I always ask our guests, for which Barbara is always prepared, to end our show on a final word of hope, approximately 3 minutes at the top of the hour. I do want to ask this question because this is Black History Month. Daryl, if 20 years from now, we had to reflect upon this moment in American history, and you had to write the story, what would the story say?
Wow, great question. If I had to write a story 20 years from now about where we are right now in the United States, I believe that what I would say, I'm confident that what I would say is there came a great challenge to the United States of America. There came a great challenge to the belief of democracy, to the pillars of democracy. And the question that was presented to us at this time is, where do we stand at this moment? Will we meet the moment and stand up for democracy and push forward to build a stronger, more inclusive society? That's what I think where we are right now. And I tell you, Barbara will tell you, I'm a Marylander through and through. I believe that Maryland can show America how to lead the way. Maryland has the only African-American governor in this country right now, the third ever in the history of the country, but Maryland now has the only elected African-American governor. We have an Asian American woman who is the lieutenant governor. We have a Latino, Afro-Latino that is our Speaker of the House. We have a woman that is our comptroller. We have elected officials up and down, and we have one of the only Black women elected to the U.S. Senate. So I think the question that where I would lay it and what I would write about right now is that we were met with a great challenge to our democracy, a great challenge to who we are principally as a people. And the question becomes, will we rise to it? And I think that, and you harken back to the great Elijah Cummings, and I always pull on him when I say this, when we're in this moment right now with all that's happening around us, all the negatives, we're better than this. As a country, we're better than this. And I think that what's going to have happen and what we're going to see happen is that people are going to continue to rise up and show that we're better than the negative moments that we find ourselves in. And that's why March the 28th at this nokings.org is going to be so off the charts that everyone will be a part of it, have a chance to raise their voice and to show that we're better than the moment that we find ourselves in right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Barbara, I don't say this to flatter you, but I am saying it to flatter you. There's no doubt in my mind that when the history of this moment is written and it is clearly understood, your leadership in this hour was pivotal in this fight to save democracy and to save the republic. If you had to write the history today that you would want read 20 years from now, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, what would that history say?
That we rose to the moment, that we showed up and we showed out, that we stopped the fascistic forces of the Trump oligarchy, and that we defeated them that they got as far as they could. The lawyers capitulated. The big law capitulated too much. Too many of the academic institutions capitulated. We see just horrible, bowing down by some of the media right now. Yeah, I'm talking about you, CBS, and some others. But it's imperative that the message, that the lesson is that the people never bowed, and that we got out in the streets, that we made it evident that we would not have it, that we voted in like we did in Texas, strong people to show that we don't accept and don't agree with this Trump agenda, that we will make it clear that we took charge of our democracy by respecting all of our constitutional rights, especially our First Amendment rights, especially our civil rights, and that we stood up and that we spoke out and that we fought with everything we had. And that's the lesson that I hope that people will read, and that they will see ordinary people like a Renee Nicole Good, ordinary people like an Alex Pretty, ordinary people just standing up, doing their job, looking out for their neighbors, demanding simple justice. I think that that's going to be the story. We're going to be reading names you and I never heard of, but they're ordinary people who are part of the thousands who have been in these streets, the thousands who are saying no, never, never, never on our watch. And that's what we absolutely will read about. And I will say to my granddaughter, child, it wasn't easy. But we fought and we won.
When I think about Mr. Chairman, and I know we have about 4.5 minutes before we come forward, when I think about how dark that summer must have been on March 11th, 1965, when James Reeb was beaten to death, and then 14 days later, Viola Liuzzo were shot in her face. And of course, the event that led to the march from Selma to Montgomery, the death of Jimmy Lee Jackson, a war hero, it had to, in that moment, seem like the darkest of times, that the experiment itself was falling apart. Of course, under the leadership of Johnson, just a few short weeks later, he would be on the floor of the Congress advocating for the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Unfortunately, the President of the United States is going to miss this moment. He's just not that courageous a figure to have the kind of character to keep us from spiraling into the place that we are. But I am cognizant of the moment, that even though it is a dark time, that 20 years from now, we might look back upon exactly what Barbara said, that the people stood up, that the martyrs and the prophetic voices presented themselves, that we did not hide, that the people took to the streets, that they understood that the American experiment, this experiment in the history of freedom, a very short experiment, is really against the backdrop of the history of unfreedom from the inception of the world to the present. There's more unfreedom in the history books than there is this narrative of the fight for equality and the fight for justice and the fight for fairness. And I'm just particularly proud that the Transformative Justice Coalition, Mr. Chairman, under your leadership, and President Arnwine, that you grace us on KBLA with your thoughts, with your action. And I share with people, Barbara, all the time, I can't make every march. I can't make every protest. I can't be at every Supreme Court hearing. I can't be on the floor of the Congress or even in the balcony of the Congress shouting at members of Congress. So send your money to Barbara Arnwine, who seems to make almost everything. Barbara, how can we send you some more money today?
You can make your donations to us at tjcoalition.org, tjcoalition.org. And thank you. I love listening to the article that you wrote for The Hill. This issue of Medicare, we got to always take care of ourselves and take care of the people. It's for the general welfare, it says, for other people. Listen, we have to make sure that Congress does its job. And that's why everything this year, 2026, is about the vote. Daryl and I will be in Selma. We'll see you back on that Pettus Bridge. We'll see you because we all, as Daryl loves to say, have our Pettus Bridges that we must cross in this time. I'm grateful, absolutely grateful to God for the honor of living in a time when our voices are called for and we're brave enough to stand up.
You've been listening to the leadership of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Chairman Daryl D. Jones, Esquire, and President Barbara Arnwine. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward tomorrow on Wealthy Wednesdays.